This is The Download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news in the business of podcasting. I'm Gavin Gaddis. Here's what you need to know for today, Monday, July 13th. First up, Buzzcast returns to Spotify. Podnews reports Buzzcast, the official podcast of hosting platform Buzzsprout, is back on Spotify. Earlier this year, they pulled the show, and in the new episode, the company co-founders Kevin Flynn explains why Buzzsprout made the choice to leave and why it's back. Reasons include Spotify appearing to be fixing the video lock-in issue that Podnews highlighted back in May. The platform is more open about podcasting as a whole, and Buzzsprout's team wants its show on as many platforms as possible. Podnews reports the return as a signal that Spotify is addressing the restrictions that limited multi-platform distribution for creators. Next up, Megaphone switches to Spotify ad server on Friday. Megaphone, Spotify's podcast hosting and ad platform, moves to Spotify ad server on Friday, July 17th. That's this week. Since Podnews first reported the migration in early May, one detail has changed. The maximum allowable ad duration is now 90 seconds rather than 60. Vast video ad serving tags are no longer supported. Megaphone support documentation details the campaign management and pre-booking changes for podcasters and ad ops teams who traffic campaigns on the platform. Next up, marketers don't get tripped up by the attention span myth. In a new Podnews guest article, DAX U.S. President Brian Conlon argues that audiences' shrinking attention span is a myth, and that consumers are instead making deliberate choices about where to direct their attention. He points to Edison Research's Infinite Dial 2026, which found 45% of Americans aged 12 and older consumed a podcast in the previous week, and the highest level the study has ever measured, as evidence that people still give sustained time to content they find valuable. Attention hasn't disappeared, he argues. Instead, people's tolerance for relevance has eroded. For a final top story, precision targeting in a privacy-first audio ecosystem. AdsWizz Media makes the case that digital audio is structurally suited to privacy-first advertising because it never depended on third-party cookies, running instead on authenticated user relationships, first-party data, and contextual signals. The piece cites AdsWizz research from December 2025 showing contextual targeting represents 60% of targeting dimensions in global digital audio activation, and SiriusXM Media finding that 71% of consumers would stop supporting companies that mishandle their data. AdsWizz Media advises marketers to layer privacy-safe signals rather than hunt for a one-to-one cookie replacement. As for the rest of the news, on Friday last week, Podnews covered an ongoing story involving Apple Podcast Connect, saying it is, quote, currently experiencing issues with play counts, end quote, in podcast analytics. James Murdoch's Lupus Systems has closed its reported $300 million acquisition of Vox Media Podcast Network and New York Magazine, keeping the nearly 50-show network under its current leadership. Bill Maher's Club Random signs with Daylight Media for ad sales and distribution, alongside 9 other shows joining the network. Backyard Ventures signs The Sketchy Podcast for exclusive advertising representation across the show's podcast, YouTube channel, and social platforms. Inside Audio Marketing covers part 2 of Sounds Profitable's podcast Atlas, and actor Tom Holland joins historian Tom Holland on a special episode of The Rest is History to discuss Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, in which the actor plays Telemachus. That does it for today's issue of The Download. Reminder, there's a link in your show notes that takes you to today's episode post. I go through all the links pretty fast, but you can find every link to everything I just talked about in that clickable link in your show notes. You can also subscribe to the newsletter version of The Download to get it sent straight to your inbox every day. Today's issue was written and produced by myself, Tom Webster, Brian Barletta, and Molly Demillier. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis, and we'll see you tomorrow.